12. Akamaru's dynamic marking. Akamaru's dynamic marking is exactly what it sounds like. He sprays urine to mark a target so Kiba can track the scent and keep pressure even through smoke, dust, or visual clutter. In the Inuzuka toolkit, it's a setup move useful to maintain contact and to help guide high-speed drills like Gatsūga or the double-headed wolf's Garōga, which are hard to steer once they're spinning. Water or wind can wash or disperse the scent. A quick substitution, a clone swap, or simple movement can make the spray miss. Odor masking, wide-area ninjutsu, or sensory techniques render the mark irrelevant. The act of marking also exposes Akamaru closing distance for a spray, invites counters, and any whiff leaves the duo vulnerable during recovery. Tactically, dynamic marking rarely changes the win condition on its own. It doesn't break guard, doesn't create guaranteed follow-ups, and doesn't scale against opponents who manage distance or flood the field with AoE pressure. Compared with more robust tracking methods, a scent mark is a fragile link that the enemy can disrupt with a single beat of counterplay. From a storytelling angle, the move is memorable mostly for its comic edge. It can set up a chase or sustain pursuit, but it almost never decides serious battles without substantial help from the rest of Team 10-style coordination. In a series where layered setups and adaptable strings win fights, dynamic marking is a situational support trick handy in cluttered terrain, but ultimately low impact and easily answered once an opponent knows it's coming. And don't forget to share this video on Facebook, Twitter, or any social media platform so we can bring even more members into our zone. A little sharing goes a long way. Thank you for supporting us, my friends. Next. 11. Kiba's Fang Over. Fang Kiba's signature. Fang Over Fang is a synchronized high-speed drill attack he performs with Akamaru after using clan basics like Beast-Human Clone. Both partners spin into twin corkscrews and drive forward in straight lines, aiming to tear through the target or even bore through obstacles. It's explosive on entry and looks impressive in tight spaces. It's easiest to land in corridors or when an opponent is pinned. In open ground, a sidestep, vertical movement, or a sudden substitution punishes the commitment. Misses leave Kiba and Akamaru exposed. The momentum carries them past the mark, creating recovery frames an alert enemy can exploit. The technique also doesn't build layered pressure by itself. It doesn't change angles mid-charge, doesn't create guaranteed follow-ups, and relies on prior tools, marking, distractions, or allies, to secure a clean line. Its higher form, Fang Wolf Fang, Garōga, via the double-headed wolf hits much harder, but inherits the same issues. It still wants a straight lane, still risks whiff punish if the target evades, and still benefits most from pre-control. Against opponents who manage distance, throw wide-area counters, or read entries, the payoff narrows quickly. From a storytelling perspective, Fang Over Fang is memorable, but mostly as a hype opener or a situational finisher. It showcases teamwork and commitment, yet it rarely decides top-tier battles without outside help. In a series where adaptable strings and multi-option pressure win exchanges, Gatsūga's linear burst and thin follow-through make it an exciting highlight, just not a reliable answer. 10. Frog Song. The first example is the Frog Song, cast not by Jiraiya himself, but by his elder toad summons, Fukasaku and Shima, during his battle with Pain. Jiraiya was facing 3 of the paths at once and struggling badly. Their shared field of vision made them nearly impossible to flank. They countered his taijutsu, and they neutralized his ninjutsu by absorbing it. Jiraiya had openly admitted that genjutsu was his weakest area. Recognizing this, the Elder Toads decided to use their own genjutsu as a trump card. In practice, Fukasaku and Shima's duet freezes 3 paths at once. It's impressive, but the sudden, all-in effect feels like an easy button. A tighter version say, the song restrains only 1 path per attempt would have forced Jiraiya to craft openings with smart ninjutsu and taijutsu, making the early win feel earned. Then, when it's revealed those bodies weren't truly finished, and Jiraiya is still in danger, the moment would land with more weight. Frog Song is a legitimate high-tier option that showcases Jiraiya's coordination with Fukasaku and Shima. The duet's potency freezing 3 paths at once makes for a striking opening. If there's a critique, it's about pacing rather than validity. The technique resolves the first exchange quickly, so some early tension is spent fast. Jiraiya still loses the battle, and the scene remains memorable for its creativity. 9. Chakra Scalpel. Often associated with medical nin, like Kabuto Yakushi, Chakra Scalpel forms fine blades of chakra around the hands to make precise internal incisions. In the clinic, it's invaluable cutting tissue without large external wounds. In combat, it can sever muscles or tendons if it connects, potentially disabling a limb. It demands exact distance control and calm contact time. A slip risks lethal damage, while a whiff leaves the user exposed. Against fast or durable opponents, closing in with bare hands to land a pinpoint cut is a high-risk proposition easily blown up by reach weapons, area pressure, or simple evasion. Even when it lands, the payoff is situational. Severing a tendon matters, but it rarely ends top-tier fights without follow-ups or team setup. From a storytelling angle, Chakra Scalpel mostly functions as a support tool that showcases control rather than a match decider. This technique is narrow, offers limited pressure by itself, and gets overshadowed by safer, broader options. But in serious engagements, it trends low impact, making it a reasonable inclusion on a list balancing overly convenient powers with techniques that struggle to matter on the big stage. 8. Rope Escape Technique. Among the countless techniques in the Naruto universe, few feel as laughably useless as the rope escape technique. The idea is simple. A shinobi learns how to untie ropes or escape bindings using chakra control. That might sound handy, until you realize we've already seen countless ninjas break free of binds with brute force, substitution, or any number of more versatile skills. Why does this technique deserve a spot here? Because it adds nothing to the narrative or battles. It's treated as a basic academy jutsu, but it never meaningfully affects a fight. No major ninja ever wins or survives thanks to rope escape. Compare it to clone jutsu or transformation jutsu, which, despite being simple, are strategically flexible. Rope escape feels like a filler page in the academy textbook there to pad out the idea that ninjas train in many arts, but never relevant when the stakes are high. From a storytelling perspective, rope escape is the opposite of an ass pull. Instead of being overpowered, it's embarrassingly weak. It exists in the lore, but gets ignored whenever characters actually face capture scenarios. If someone like Kakashi or Naruto were tied up, would anyone really expect them to use rope escape instead of substitution or raw strength? Of course not. It's a technique in name only, which makes it one of the worst jutsus in Naruto simply because it's pointless, redundant, and narratively irrelevant. 7. Konoha Secret Finger Jutsu, 1000 Years of Death. Konoha Secret Finger Jutsu, 1000 Years of Death. The name sounds mysterious, but in practice it's the legendary butt poke Kakashi used to prank Naruto during the bell test. Technically speaking, there's no chakra control, no hand seals, just 2 fingers and an opponent too distracted to guard properly. If this is really considered a hidden leaf secret technique, then the secret is simply how it ever made it into the official jutsu list. It doesn't open combos, doesn't create setups, and the follow-up is basically humiliation. From a narrative standpoint, it's pure comic relief, good for a gag, but worthless for real stakes. Naruto gains Rasengan, Sasuke has Chidori, and Kakashi. Well, sometimes even a genius falls back on the cheapest weapon imaginable. 6. Spiderweb. Spiderweb here covers Kitamaru's web-based kit, Spiderbind, a shot of sticky chakra threads that wraps and immobilizes targets. Spider Cocoon, which encases an opponent in a tight cocoon, and Spider Web Area, a spread of fine touch threads used as a perimeter sensor. All 3 rely on his chakra-infused threads adhesive, elastic, and tough enough that normal tools struggle to cut them. The same chakra that makes the webs cling also exposes a hard counter. Precise chakra disruption severs or weakens the threads, whereas higher-level opponents can evade with substitution, area denial, or ranged pressure before the bind lands. In practice, once Kitamaru's trick is solved, the web loses bite and becomes a stall tactic rather than a fight ender. From a storytelling angle, the webs are memorable but rarely decisive at high stakes. They stall, they set a trap, but they don't scale into true finishers against top opponents. As a worst pick, this isn't about being broken, it's about being redundant and low impact once the counterplay is known. 5. Kakashi's Susanoo. Kakashi's sudden leap to a full, towering Susanoo in the Kaguya battle is visually striking his Kamui Raikiri, and the new Kamui variants look great on screen, but the way it happens feels abrupt and contrived. In that moment, Obito's spirit lends Kakashi both Mangekyo Sharingan, and Kakashi goes from never using Susanoo to manifesting a complete perfect Susanoo immediately, right in the most volatile fight of the series. For a character without Uchiha lineage, that sudden leap to using Susanoo still felt disproportionate to what had been established about his abilities. Kakashi did not progress through the usual stages of Susanoo's skeletal, armored, or incomplete forms. Instead, after receiving Obito's chakra and awakening Mangekyo Sharingan in both eyes, he manifested the perfect Susanoo immediately. This was the fully armored, winged giant usually reserved for Uchiha with complete mastery, such as Madara or Sasuke. Seeing Kakashi unlock the highest form on his very first attempt felt abrupt and overpowered. From a storytelling perspective, a more measured payoff, perhaps a partial manifestation combined with creative Kamui tactics, would have aligned better with his established growth while still honoring the temporary gift from Obito. 4. Kiba's Four Legs Technique. An Inuzuka staple. Four Legs Technique channels Chakra to sharpen claws and fangs, and shifts the user into a low, animalistic stance. The payoff is greater speed, sharper reactions, and harder strikes while moving on all fours. It's the springboard for the clan's tandem style, with a Ninken partner setting up beast-human clone and charge-based finishers like Fang over Fang, or the double-headed Wolf's Fang Wolf Fang. It doesn't create openings by itself, change angles mid-approach, or provide protection on entry. Opponents who manage distance, elevate, counter with area pressure, or punish overcommitment can read the rush and force whiffs. Against disciplined defenses or wide, chakra-based screens, the buff rarely turns the tide without prior setup. From a storytelling perspective, Four Legs Technique is effective as an identity piece showcasing Inuzuka coordination and burst, but it seldom decides major fights on its own. In battles that reward layered feints and multi-option pressure, this is a narrow stat boost, great for chases, ambushes, or finishing an already controlled target, yet low impact once an opponent anticipates the line and denies the lane. 3. Ino's Mind Transfer. The Yamanaka clan's mind transfer projects the user's consciousness in a straight line to seize control of a target's body. While the technique connects, the user's own body collapses and must be protected. If it misses, the user is left stunned for a short time. Control is brief, range is modest, and strong-willed or fast opponents can resist or avoid it outright. In practice, it works best when teammates first immobilize or distract the target. Classic Team 10 coordination, so Ino can land the shot safely. Even when it lands, the window is short and rarely guarantees a finish without additional setup. Against elite shinobi who control distance, spam area pressure, or punish openings, mind transfer too often trades a fighter off the board, Ino's body, for a temporary and fragile hold on the enemy. It's mostly a support tool, useful for coordination or a clutch interruption, but seldom the reason a major fight is won. It doesn't reshape matchups the way adaptable taijutsu strings or versatile binding techniques do, and it struggles to scale as battles grow faster and broader in scope. Eye-catching when it works, yes, but in serious engagements, mind transfer is a narrow, high-risk option whose payoff frequently depends on everyone else doing the heavy lifting first. 2. Rinne Tensei. Rinne Tensei's first appearance functions like an all-encompassing reset. After Pain's Shinra Tensei levels, Konoha and many lives are lost. Nagato restores everyone in a single technique. The image of the village being wiped out is one of the story's most striking moments, but the mass revival immediately softens that impact. The intention is clear. After speaking with Naruto, Nagato opts for atonement. The mass revival also leads to Naruto being recognized by the village. On those aims, there is nothing inherently wrong. Resurrection already exists in this world, and Naruto has long dealt with themes of revival and reincarnation. The concern lies in how the jutsu is introduced. It arrives suddenly, at maximum effect, without groundwork that might prepare the audience for such a sweeping outcome. Pain's objective was Naruto. With Naruto off-site, Pain escalated and destroyed Konoha to force his appearance. If those losses had remained, resentment toward Naruto would have been understandable, and his path to recognition would have been harder. Instead, the technique restores everyone, clearing away that tension and yielding a celebratory reception. Viewers may welcome specific returns, Kakashi's, for instance, but the trade-off is clear. Consequences built across the arc are removed in an instant. This does not mean Rinne Tensei should never have existed, or that its use cannot work. The series had already shown forms of resurrection, and the idea of Nagato expending himself to repair what he helped destroy fits the character turn the story seeks. As presented, the technique accomplishes important narrative goals. Naruto's moral victory and Nagato's atonement, yet the manner of its debut undercuts the hard-won weight of the pain arc. It is impactful, but its arrival is abrupt. Even so, within the broader list of problem jutsu, this one is not the single worst example. 1. Itachi Izanami. Izanami becomes the pivot of the Kabuto encounter, resolving every constraint at once and ending the fight on its first use. The situation is Itachi and Sasuke versus Kabuto. Killing Kabuto is not an option, because only Kabuto can end Edo Tensei. The objective is to stop him and compel the release. There is another constraint. Kabuto has closed his eyes and is operating through Sage Mode sensory perception, which largely neutralizes conventional ocular genjutsu. On paper, that setup promises an inventive, high-stakes chess match, with Itachi and Sasuke forced to construct a careful plan under tight limits. What happens instead is that Izanami appears and answers every requirement at once. It does not kill Kabuto, yet it restrains him, overrides his resistance to visual illusions, and effectively ends the fight as soon as it takes hold. The technique arrives without prior mention, which makes it feel like a solution designed specifically for this moment, rather than something the narrative had prepared the audience to expect. The result is a swift resolution, where the battle's intricate constraints cease to matter. The technique is simply the right key for every lock. The disappointment is less about power and more about process. Given the parameters no killing, limited access to standard genjutsu, and an opponent enhanced by Sage Mode, there was room for a layered strategy in which Itachi and Sasuke create and exploit a narrow opening. Instead, the fight pivots on a technique that appears when needed and ends the contest decisively. That coincidence dulls the satisfaction the scene might have delivered if the brothers had maneuvered Kabuto into a trap through observable setup and payoff. Some will point to Izanagi as an indirect precedent. In mythology, Izanagi and Izanami are paired, and the series had already introduced Izanagi. But in-story treatment differs. Izanagi was established earlier, notably in the Danzo confrontation, where it increased complexity without serving as a simple escape or instant win. That earlier presentation also prepared viewers to accept Obito's later use against Konan. By then, the audience knew what the technique was, how it functioned, and why it mattered. Izanami lacks that runway. It is not discussed or hinted at before its decisive deployment, and its first use happens to be the perfect countermeasure for the exact puzzle at hand, including the crucial need to end Edo Tensei without killing its caster. Compounding this, the exposition that accompanies Izanami is notably dense. Rather than building anticipation for a known but difficult option, the scene must pause to explain an unfamiliar, intricate mechanism and then immediately treat it as the overarching answer. The complexity of the explanation cannot substitute for dramatic groundwork. The fight's constraints, which initially promised creative problem-solving, are resolved by a single, newly introduced rule. For these reasons, Izanami is often cited as the weakest-handled jutsu in this context, not because the concept is inherently invalid, but because its introduction and timing remove the need for the tactical, step-by-step solution the setup seemed to invite. The technique fulfills every condition at once, closes the encounter instantly, and leaves the impression of a made-to-order resolution rather than an earned conclusion.